So thanks to be here today for the CLS and Kinéis webinar on the AES challenges. So first I'm going to present you 5 minutes ActInSpace and the goal and the aim of this adventure. And after I will give the floor to CLS and Kinéis experts in order to let them present their exciting challenge for the AES 2020 edition. And at the end of the session, we will realize a Q&A part. So please ask all your questions on the question box, and we will answer at the end of the session. Thank you. So first, ActInSpace have been created in 2014 by the CNES, and it's co-organized by ESA, and they decided to give the operation part to the Aerospace Valley. So since the beginning of ActInSpace, 35 startups have been created and are still supported by the 16 international partners since the first edition. So the ActInSpace Timeline. So the first edition was in 2014, but it was just a French edition counting 12 cities in France. In 2016, we had 12 countries, 24 cities, 900 participants, and 14 startups were created. This was the first international edition of ActInSpace. In 2018, we have 32 countries, 54 cities, 2,200 participants, and 18 startups were created. And for the 2020 edition, we have for now 44 countries gathered for ActInSpace, almost 90 cities in the world. We are waiting for 4,000 participants, and we hope that more than 35 startups will be created. So the ActInSpace goals, so during 24 hours, the teams come together to work on challenges based on technology or data from space. 2 events, the tomorrow's new technologies and services of the innovation. So the ActInSpace goals are also to dream and to be a future entrepreneur of the space sector, highlight the space sector and its daily impact on our society, contribute to the social economic growth and contribute to the startup creation also, cooperate to organize and create a cooperation between the space and the non-space companies, and make patent licensing more accessible to all the participants. So concerning the patent, I'm going to explain you the little history of the patent of ActInSpace. So where did the AES challenges come from? Some CNES had the space patent hidden away for a long time, and then didn't know what to do about all these patents. So they decided to make them accessible to all the AES participants. So the idea was to develop the space and the non-space sectors. And since the second edition, Airbus just joined ActInSpace as a sponsor, and they decided to contribute to all this patent with giving data, and that's how the challenges were created. The big point of and the big bonus of ActInSpace is by joining the event, you will have a complete access to the CNES patent, and if your goal is to create or to develop a startup, then you will be helped and supported by the CNES and by the other international partners at the end, even at the end of the competition. Then I'm going to give the floor to Marc Lemine, who is a CLS expert, and thank you so much.
Hello to everyone. I'm very pleased to be here with you today. My name is Marc Lemine. I'm in charge of innovation, not for CLS, but for Kineis, which is spin-off from CNES. I'm very pleased that Kineis CLS is going to propose 3 very exciting challenges for ActInSpace 2020. So what we will do today, we'll start presenting what Kineis is all about, and then we will present the three challenges we will propose for the hackathon. Okay, we will start with a short movie that will tell you everything about Kineis.
By 2030, over 70 billion devices will be connected. Imagine the next generation of IoT. This new IoT will integrate seamlessly, need little power, and be compatible with other systems. It will also be robust, reliable, and inexpensive. In 2022, this revolutionary IoT will be a reality, available for everyone, everywhere, and for all devices. Its origins: the Argos geopositioning and data collection satellite system, the first IoT system in the world. Building on this proven system will provide connectivity for a whole host of activities: extreme sports, agriculture, small-scale fishing, safety at sea, logistics, and many more. Kineis opens up a new world of possibilities. You've been waiting for this. Wait no longer. Sign up now for the first IoT connection from space.
Okay, so what a great and exciting project we have here. So let me just tell you what it is about. You have seen most of it in the video, and a quick explanation. Kineis is going to be a satellite constellation of 25 very small satellites, nanosatellites, that are very cheap to produce, much lighter and much smaller than existing satellites, and that we will launch in 2023 when our system is going to be operational. The system is going to be used to provide what we call global IoT service. IoT stands for Internet of Things. And the idea is that with Kineis, our users will be able to track and monitor about anything around the world, almost in real time, thanks to the global connectivity that we are going to provide. So how is it working? In fact, everything starts with the very small chip that you have seen in the movie. In fact, this chip is so small that it can fit in almost anything. Just add some power with a small battery, just add an antenna, and in instance, you are able to transmit almost any type of small data sets, like the position of something. If you want to track animals, if you want to track containers, you can even send other sensor data like temperature, pressure, or door status, or whatever data you want to collect from the field. And to explain how it works, it's very simple. This chip is going to be integrated in devices like the black box that you can see here. This black box is going to be fitted on what you want to monitor. And remember that the black box can be very small, so multiple new use cases can be imagined. And from this black box, data is going to be transmitted to the satellite. Then from the satellite downlinked to the ground station. We are going to have, as I mentioned, 20 ground stations around the world, and then everything is going to be centralized to our mission center, which is located in Toulouse. And from there, you will be able to see, for example, the positions of the assets on the map, or to see the temperature of a weather station in the field with data coming in almost in real time. So what are the use cases that we envision? Kineis will be able to track things around the world, to monitor things, containers, assets, or animals. You can track, for example, livestock. You can track birds. It's small enough to be able to track even small birds. And will be able with Kineis to send and receive very short messages. So as long as you don't exceed 32 bytes of data, you can transmit almost anything thanks to Kineis. This is what the technology, this new technology will allow in 3 years from now. And now where we need you is to imagine new use cases, new ideas of Kineis, and especially related to environmental monitoring. So thank you for Kineis, and I let the floor to CLS now for and to Gaëtan to explain the challenges that we are proposing.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to Aerospace Valley and Mark for giving me the floor to further introduce the 3 challenges we are glad to propose this year for that ActInSpace edition. So we are at CLS, we are mainly focusing on the use of Kineis connectivity for applications at sea. So the 3 challenges we are proposing today, I will start introducing one, focusing mainly on energy, renewable energy at sea. And I will try to give you some examples of how we are using satellite data today and raising the question for you all, how this could be used in the future for other applications. So on this slide, you can see how we are today at CLS using so-called Earth observation data to support the growing industry of renewable energy at sea, here focusing on wind at sea. What you see here is how we are making use of SAR imagery, so radar images at sea, to basically monitor almost in real time wind conditions, true wind conditions at sea, compared to modeling of that wind and forecasts. And that's particularly useful for new operators of such kind of offshore infrastructure at sea. And what we have been asked already and what we are now focusing on is how remote IoT connectivity powered by Kineis would also leverage the use of satellite data for this kind of new operators out there at sea. So what can be done tomorrow relying on this kind of satellite data? There will be in the near future many more infrastructure creating green energy out of the ocean, whether it is solar energy at sea, wind, as I said, tide, wave, current. So there are many different technologies and projects and initiatives all around the world. Europe is also pushing quite a lot for this kind of blue energy to really kick off in our society. And we are glad to support that with space data. So in practice, this can be used for on-site monitoring, conditions prediction, risk management, and also business intelligence somehow, because then you can also monitor whether or not your entity is producing as much energy as planned compared to the strategic plan for the investors in this kind of platforms at sea. And therefore, this is particularly relevant right now in this emerging phase of that industry for financial markets. So that's something we're currently working on, and we trust Kineis connectivity out there offering such low-cost data collection is also opening up new horizons for this kind of expectations. It's also important to mention, as Mark introduced, about the key benefits of Kineis, that also subsurface infrastructure can be monitored thanks to Kineis with so-called pop-up tags, which are basically below the surface and can pop up at the surface to start transmitting information upon a given trigger below the water. So that's the kind of new solutions which we are thinking about, and for which we trust many of you can also think about for the future. I will now leave the floor to Anna to introduce the second challenge we are proposing you.
Hi everyone, I'm sorry for the little delay. So I'm going to present the Save the Endangered Species Challenge, which is, in a nutshell, a challenge for you to imagine new ways to effectively protect animals leveraging satellite data. So I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of a context of the challenge that you face today, tell you about some of the technology that is already available, and go over about how it currently helps and why it isn't enough so far. So the boring part first is the key figures, but it's important that you know that there are 32,000 species that are currently threatened with extinction based on the IUCN Red List. And that's 41% of amphibians, 30% of sharks and rays, and 26% of mammals. And that's not even taking into consider other types of species or even plant life. So while there's always room for improvement, and you've seen the potential now with Kineis and the technology, and that's also open for you to help technology evolve, technology has already come a long way with regards to wildlife tracking over the last 30 years. Today, if we take avian tags, bird tags today, the smallest is just 2 grams. So we've got tags that vary between 100 grams, meaning there are 3,500 species that we can track, that we can monitor, but there are still 6,500 species of birds alone that aren't able to be tracked because we don't have the technology available yet. We've got pop-up tags, like Gaëtan mentioned, that are currently used for tracking fish migrations or shark migrations. So these tags will stay on the animal for up to a year, and eventually they'll pop up, and based on the light captors, the depth captors, and the temperature, we can see where they go. We can see how far they dive. And we've even got combined technology, so satellite and with radar imagery tags as well. So far, this technology has helped. I mean, it helps us understand species ecology. We've been able to track their migrations, and this in turn leads to setting up conservation methods, such as principally right now, protected areas. But unfortunately, the fact that there are 32,000 species threatened with extinction alone, protected areas aren't enough today. And why? Why aren't they enough? They're not enough today because they don't. They are a long, drawn-out process. They're not all created equal. They can fight against overexploitation, they can protect against habitat loss, but they cannot protect species against climate change, against pollution, illegal activities such as poaching, illegal logging, or illegal fishing. And clearly, we need this information now, today. So what can you guys do tomorrow? Well, currently, so far, there have been projects and use cases using EO data, such as altimetry data, as well as the wildlife tracking location data, to be able to study species behavior and the impact that climate change does have on them. But we know this information, but the challenge for you today is to tell us, how can we turn this knowledge, this information, into viable actions? How can we make it do something for the species that are currently all endangered? So what biodiversity needs today from you is your ingenuity and most of all, your innovative minds. So I'm going to pass back to Gaëtan now.
All right, thank you very much, Anna. That's very inspiring. So coming up now to the third challenge, we are glad to propose this year. If I can come to the next slides, here we are. So make our oceans great again. So today, many of you daily hear about the oceans, and Hannah just focused on biodiversity and the wildlife, but that's the whole ocean ecosystem which is endangered today with many different threats, whether it is pollution, oil pollution, plastic pollution, overfishing, acidification of the oceans, etc., etc. So there is a strong citizen willingness, I trust, and by the decision makers to take actions to better understand, protect, and raise awareness about how the oceans are so relevant and so vital for all of us, for the whole planet, not only the humans, but also the whole biodiversity. So, and of course, the oceans are such a huge thing to understand and to monitor and to collect data from that. Of course, satellites is the right technology, not the only one, but probably the main relevant technology to go down that road. So that's why that challenge is a very generic one, to invite you to really think about the oceans in all its dimensions, whether it is biological dimensions, physical dimensions, human activities out there in the oceans, the ocean climate and atmosphere interactions, the wildlife and biodiversity, the citizens, etc., etc. So we trust we reached a point where collaborative science is a must to support that objective to better protect the oceans. And as Anna mentioned about the wildlife, we already have quite a lot of data, and here on that slide you can see, for instance, thanks to satellite altimeter, which is something CLS has been working on for the last 30 years, to have that sea level rise data, and that's one layer, let's say, of data to be combined with many others to support a bigger awareness of all the challenges in all the different dimensions of the oceans. So that challenge aims at inviting you to think about how to make use of IoT Kineis connectivity, but potentially also Earth observation data, and probably make use of IA and machine learning techniques also to make all of that data sounds together. So that challenge is really about leveraging this kind of data for different purposes, which could be risk management, ocean and biodiversity protection, energy, safety at sea, etc. And the reason for all of that pictures here on that slide is to highlight how collaborative science currently work with citizens collecting data, vessels collecting data, birds, as well as fish, sharks, etc., are also a way to collect data at sea, and not only to track them, but also to collect data out there. Fishing gears are also a way to collect salinity, temperature, pressure, and this kind of very important information for better understanding the oceans. So there is a very good context with the decade of the ocean science starting next year for the next 10 years. And that challenge really falls under that context. And we at CLS and Kineis are very confident that such Kineis IoT connectivity, which we rebranded Ocean of Things connectivity, will really support that challenge and that strong willingness to better understand the oceans. So I think that's it in a nutshell to introduce our challenges, which would leave us enough time for Q&A session. Thanks very much.
All right.
Okay, so okay, go ahead, Pierre.
Okay, so it's time for question now. So if you have any question about the challenge that has been explained to you, you can just ask on the question box, and the expert will respond.
Okay, then if nobody have any question, maybe we can close the session.
Have any questions?
So the replay will be available on the YouTube channel of Connect by CNES suddenly next week. If you have any question, just you have our email on the bottom of the screen, and let us know if you have any question about the CLS and Kineis challenges. We will answer later, and we will transfer all the questions to our experts. And thank you so much to all our experts today to present all this exciting challenge. And we hope that you will be a huge participant to work on these challenges to find the solutions for the environment and for endangered species. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.